Rant's in. Welcome back to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And It's a Draw Spook.
Spook.
Yes.
We fought the might of the
We
reigning...
fought?
Yeah.
Who won?
No one, apparently. It was like...
Hitler.
What did you think about the draw against the reigning premiers, Richmond?
I love a good draw. Isn't it good? That was a worthy outcome for the first game back. What a cracking game that was. That was awesome.
Well, they're 80 days plus back.
Yeah, look, I'll cut slack.
I won't.
Only this once.
No, I won't at all. Alright, so we jumped out of the blocks. We...
Stop me if you've heard this one before.
Yes, ran really hard, kicked goals, shot to a lead, and then just stopped defensively. Defensively, we were brilliant. Grundy copped a knock, so he wasn't as effective as usual.
No.
And the midfield, Pendles and side bottom fought valiantly. Adams started really well but faded. Dagos started really well and decreased a little bit, but I mean he was really, really promising.
I found his performance quite encouraging.
Oh, I think that's... I mean, I always sort of prefer when you talk to Collingwood fans and they say...
I do it.
No, anyone, and you talk to them and you go, what do you think of that player? And they go, oh, he's shit. And it's like, he's played like 7 minutes of football. I've made a determination. 7 minutes. That's all I need to see. Dagos been in the system a couple of years. I reckon he was a little bit unfairly dropped a couple of times last year where he played against North, we got smashed, he got dropped. He played against Hawthorn, we got smashed, he got dropped. It was like, I think he's being scapegoated a little. But I thought he showed some composure, some really neat skills. And again, he's still on the very young side in terms of experience.
He
physically,
physically he looks like he's bulked a bit.
Yeah.
And even there was a few close-ups of the face. He looks a little bit older now. Yeah, which obviously happens. Can you believe that happens?
The pandemic's
I think
aged
it's aged us all.
The pandemic's aged us.
I'm looking about 32 now. Yeah, but he looks a lot more mature of body, and he's certainly he's starting to look like he belongs, which is I thought was really good. And the same with Callum Brown too. I mean, I know you hate him, but I thought some of his passages of play and his hands in traffic it's phenomenal.
As I said,
and the two of them linked up beautifully a few times.
As I said about Callum, the thing I love about him, he's actually a playmaker.
Oh, you love him now.
When he gets it, he won't just do a cheap handball off. He'll try and create play.
Like the one at the start of the show.
Yeah, like the Chris Mayne one. The biggest concern for me is...
Jordan to go.
Okay, let's just digress for a bit. What the fuck is with all the blonde heads in the side? Is it like a Roy Batty convention?
I dyed my back hair blonde.
I don't think I want to see that. I mean, Howe, Crisp, the Goey... no, that's all, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about it. I think more back to being blonde.
No, he's a brunette now.
Yeah.
John Noble's a blonde.
Yeah, where are you going with this? This is good.
What's the point of it? They look horrible. I mean...
Isolation did a lot of strange things to strange people.
Okay, so we did it this game. We did it in the prelim. We did it in...
Well, not did it. Not we did it.
Yeah, we did it. We did it personally. And the qualifying final against Geelong. Prelim we did it in a different order. Qualifying final and Thursday started strongly and then just did nothing offensively. So if you look at us on Thursday, kicked 4-1, 5-3, and then after half time we kicked 1 point and then 2 points. Again,
you win flags with performances like that.
Against Geelong, we kicked 4-2, then went up to 7-5, and then went up to 9-7, and that was pretty early in the third quarter, and then we just stayed on 9-7. And then if you look at Greater Western Sydney, kicked 2 goals, then we were 3-2, and then we were 3-5, and a little bit of the last quarter went before we scored anything. We just have these huge stretches of nothing. Now, the thing that concerns me is, and I'll try and list these in order, first quarter against Richmond, really took the game on, a lot of neat kicking, sliced it open with precision disposal, ran hard, and after that first quarter it was like, let's just bomb the fuck out of it to anyone and hope that our teammates will win.
The norm. Probably to Richmond's credit, though. I think as much as we did as well, defence really tightened up. There was two very good defensive teams out there, but it become a very, very difficult game to watch. That's the way that the future of these teams is going to be. It's not going to be a great spectacle.
But the thing of Collingwood is, I mean, not taking credit away from Richmond, but it happened against Geelong also, and it happened against GWS. So we seem to be a pretty easy team to shut down. Now, you know what my problem is when we're shut down? It's a lot of players on that side who suddenly look very pedestrian. And I won't name them, but Tom Phillips, John Noble, Josh Thomas, Will Hoskin-Elliott, amongst them, they suddenly look like absolute front runners who can't do anything unless they're being fed the ball. And that's fine because every team has those. But if you go back to 2018, you had this really unified front and there's always someone bobbing up. Josh Thomas kicked 5 against Carlton, I think, and I think he kicked the 4 against Richmond.
Hosky had a bag once, I think.
They all got bags, but the reason I'm picking that Josh Thomas because I've seen some criticism of him as being, does he ever do anything? It's actually he has. But at the moment, the way we're working, and this has been a problem with the forward line since last year. Last year, the forward line was really spluttering. It wasn't working the way it had done in 2018, and they can't get it going. And I don't know what they've changed, other than putting Elliott back in there. Cox has been injured for part of last year, and he's obviously wasn't in the second game. We're good against Bulldogs, but now that's qualified by what's happening at the Bulldogs. Did we make them look terrible, or are they terrible?
Yeah, well, I mean, after this weekend, it's fair to say that they're terrible at the moment. But, the thing is with that, is they were terrible 2 months ago, and they've continued where they left off. Which, we talked about this a little bit before, about whether there's something more going on at that club than
I think there's something more.
That they've,
I think we've broken.
Yeah. Or something got broken.
Some cars, maybe.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, the other thing too is just I don't. The forward line has not worked for 18 months. I think.
But the thing I think that's missing there is Mr. Stevenson to a fair extent.
Yeah. The other thing though too is the guy was played in the middle, so he wasn't there either. You look at that midfield. 18 months ago, it was lauded the greatest midfield to ever take a football field. And I look at it now, and you got Pendlebury, who's what? How old's he now? About 39?
184.
And Sidebottom, who's no spring chicken himself. And I thought he was really good. I know you criticise him all the time, but I actually really liked his game on Thursday.
All 5 minutes of it.
And Adams started well, but then I think his effectiveness faded. And it's who else is in that midfield? Taking Grundy aside, because he's the ruckman. Where else is that midfield depth? And it's okay, you got Tyler Brown, you got out-bustled, which is going to happen because he's still a kid.
Yeah, I actually like him though. I don't want to see him dropped. I think he's some of his endeavour is looking like he's still clearly finding his way, but he's getting into the right places.
The problem though now you go back a couple of years ago or whatever. You had a young player like Tyler Brown, and he might have been, if you were struggling at some point, you just drop him for a couple of weeks, freshen him back up, then bring him back up. You can't do that now because of the situation with the pandemic, and there's no feeder sides. So if you drop them, they're playing shitty scratch matches, which means that what's going to probably have to happen is they're going to have to just rotate players constantly to keep everyone fresh. But I think this really exploits the lack of our depth because if you had some ready-made players, like if you go back to 2010 when we were motoring along, you had guys like Lockyer, O'Brien, Fraser, Medhurst in the reserves. You could just bring them in and they would hit the ground running because they had that experience behind them. Now you look at the reserves and it's the guys who aren't playing, they're not getting game time. And who are we bringing up? Varco, Treloar and Greenwood are all coming off big injuries. Same with Lyndon Dunn. And then you got guys like who you really want to come up, like Isaac Quaynor, Nathan Murphy, and there's going to be others there. And again, they've had very limited development last year. So I think our depth, if it's tested, we're really going to be struggling because we don't have plug-and-play players. And the guys you looked at on Thursday are pretty much the guys who are going to carry the team. And the only couple I think you could really add there are Cox and Treloar and possibly Varco. But our depth, I think, is just going to really fall off a cliff because the guys you want coming up aren't getting game time and they're not experienced enough to hit the ground running. Schoenberg's another one.
Yeah, he's a forgotten boy, isn't he?
And then you get Size, another one you'd love in that side.
Oh, definitely. What is the story with him? Is he injured?
I got no idea. Wills is another one. See, all these guys, like, the only reason I'm giving Varco leeway to say he could hit the ground running is he's been around for about 15 years. So he's got all those pre-seasons under his belt. He's experienced enough. You could drop him in.
He was injured, though, pre-season, wasn't he?
Yeah, because he did the shoulder injury. So this is the problem, is like the experienced guys you do have, like Varco, Dunn, Treloar, have all had injury issues. And then the young guys haven't had enough game time. I mean, Quaynor missed most of the last third of last year, I think it was.
Pustules, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, Murphy missed pretty much the whole year. I can't remember who other players we have there. And then you get the draftees like Blanco and all that. Is that his name? Benny Blanco from the Bronx?
It could be. Well, you had Rantel as an emergency, so he's clearly knocking on the door. The club were pumping Keane up today with a beautiful photo.
They were keen on him, though.
So they're bringing in all the big names.
But this is the thing, is like the guys you're reaching to, you're really just hoping they can
hit the ground running.
Yeah, and who does that outside of
Rao
and Stevenson? So
That's
Stevenson,
it.
Just out of curiosity of Stevenson, because I had a lot of arguments with about 98 people. Anything sinister in his absence from the side?
I believe he's probably argued with the coach, slept with somebody's wife. What are the usual things he done? Has he stabbed anyone?
Probably bet. Probably bet.
He's probably bet. Yeah, he didn't learn anything there, did he?
I heard he had a conversation with Buckley, and Buckley goes, "You betting again?" And Stevenson said no, and Buckley goes, "You sure?" And Stevenson says, "You on a bet?"
I didn't see that coming. But maybe he's walked under a ladder with an umbrella, holding a black cat. Yeah, look, I don't know. I don't think there's anything sinister in it. He had the glandular fever
Injured a hand
pre-season. He's probably just sluggish getting back into the swing of things.
I think he's had a brain injury.
I definitely think he'll come back in this week, though.
I just think like Buckley is just making him work for it, which I think is good. Make him earn this spot. I think he should come back in this week. If he doesn't, then you might start asking questions. But I mean, it's funny at Collingwood. At the moment, someone's not selected, like happened with Scharenberg last year. There was like, it's conspiracies. There's got to be issues. There's got to be issues. He's not being selected.
Because Lord knows you can't have 42 blokes on the ground at the same time.
There's got to be issues. There's total.
You can't have it, can you?
If you cheat like some clubs. Keane, I hear there's issues with him. You let him play?
Why not?
I hear there's issues with Buckley.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other names. I can't come up with any.
No.
30 tackles to 66 in Richmond's favour. So it showed
Was that the first quarter?
That's the whole game.
What?
30 to 66.
Yeah, I did see something about that. That's pitiful. But apparently it was Dewey. I kept hearing the Dewey excuse.
Didn't stop Richmond.
But maybe they slipped over a little bit more and they look like tackles.
Again, you know what I want from this side? I want, when they're challenged like that, I want someone to stand up in the leadership group, apparently we have one, and just say, hey, what we're doing is not working. Let's try something a little bit different, or let's just slow it down, let's just take control. And you know what? There's a few games that this has happened where they haven't. Let me name a few. The 2019 prelim, the 2018 grand final. You know?
Oh, why stop there?
It's a thing, but it's a problem because the defence did a fantastic job of keeping Richmond down, and Richmond were pretty scrappy too, so they helped. But you can't bank on that the whole time.
No.
And it's just something where you got to say, you know what, this isn't working. And this is on Buckley too, because you kick 4-1 in the first quarter, and for the rest of the game you kick 1-5. Surely someone there should be saying, what we're doing isn't working for the bulk of the game. And this was happening last year. And we cited it really early last year, and people took us to task saying, oh, you're too negative. Oh, especially about you, they're going, you're too negative. You're dragging them down.
But I am negative.
Oh, okay. At least you own it. And we were saying there was issues last year because what they were doing was they were playing 95 minutes of drivel and they were playing 8 minutes of sublime football, and people go, oh no, we're going to click into gear when it means something. I'm guessing it was going to mean...
When does it mean something? Which year?
I think it meant something the week after the prelim.
Yeah, I wonder about this. Whether, again, there's no injuries or anything like that coming into these games for either side. So maybe it was a mentally type thing, and it was at that point the yardstick game for the rest of the weekend. You wonder whether that had a negative effect where they've gone into it thinking, oh, I don't know what to make of this, and they played like it, both sides. But then all the other clubs have looked back at that game and thought, well, geez, I think we can do a little bit better than that. And then they've played proper football. I'd be curious to see how we go this week in terms of intensity. I think it'll be up, very much up.
Just my concern is, like I said, we have form in being out of form when the opposition applies defensive pressure.
Yeah,
we tend to fall away. In the last 18 months, in 2018, we actually lifted to the occasion, except in one game. Fortunately, that game didn't mean anything. But we fall away, and the whole game plan unravels, and they rely on the bombing.
It was also, I mean, the one thing I thought stood out the other night too is that when we got our noses in front, a bit like that grand final thing you keep going on about, we went to really this defensive mindset, and we pushed everybody behind the ball. I mean, the amount of times that they actually broke out of the arc and then started to run forward, and there's nothing to kick to. Everybody's down there. I think even the cardboard cutouts were down there at one stage. It was just ridiculous.
What do you think of Darcy Cameron?
I think it was a good debut. It was solid. He looks like a proper footballer.
Do you think him and Cox can play on the same side?
I don't think so.
So you think they'll stick with Cameron or go with Cox?
I reckon this week they'll stick with him.
I think Cameron came too far up to chase his marks, but I think that was part of how poorly we were playing, that people were getting sucked up. And then when you turned around, there was just nothing. Any final thoughts on this horrible game?
Nah, put a line through it. We got the 4 points, didn't we? Well, everyone got 4 points.
We got 2
We just halved it. Look, you take a draw now, I think.
I'll take a draw over a loss.
Better than a loss. It's not the ideal start. It's probably a game we should have clearly won, and we didn't. I think we'll take it to task, and we'll come back a little bit better this week.
We'll talk about that in the match preview.
Like I said, I'm cutting a little bit of slack because it was a great unknown. You had 83 days without playing footy. The best that they did, I think, was they went with a mate and kicked a kick at the park. Then they had, 2 weeks of...
Were they kicking to one another or just anyway?
Oh, they were not Collingwood. They wouldn't kick the kick. It'd be kicking test gravity.
I hear when Collingwood players go kick the kick, they just all stand on one side and kick it.
So we've done enough now. Let's go home. So I think there'll be a little bit more redemption this week. Is that what we were talking about? Because I've lost track now with you.
Anyway,
with your pitiful gag.
They're pretty good gags. Anyway, we'll be back with Medium Mephitic.
Oh, is that thing still going?
Not still going. It's resumed. Is it resumed after 81 days?
No, I don't know what to think anymore.
Welcome back to Medium Mephitic.
What's Robbo done this week?
It's a really light week in the news, apparently, except for one pressing issue. But we'll start with Robbo.
So why don't we just call this the Robbo moment? Robbo's rant? No, it's no good.
Bean Robinson.
Robbo's receptacle? No, I don't want to think about that. Anyway, move on. What do you got?
Okay, so...
Did you see that picture of him over the break, and he's got a suit of armour and a cigar store Indian in his lounge room?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it sums him up.
He listed a handful of things that he enjoyed from the round.
Oh, yeah.
No, sorry, from the Port Adelaide game. From the Port versus Adelaide.
What did he enjoy? Can I have a guess?
Yeah.
I already know the answer. Can I have a guess, though?
Yeah, guess.
He liked the jumper.
Yeah, he liked the Port Adelaide prison bars
What
jumper.
do you think his motivation in making a statement like that could possibly be?
I don't know.
Whose ire would he be raising?
Port Adelaide's?
No, I don't think so. He's a troll.
So
in more ways than one.
What do you think of the jumper debate?
I don't care. I like the Port Adelaide prison bar jumper. I don't care how many times a year they choose to wear it. They just don't wear it against us.
I actually think they should wear it against us, but I don't care about them wearing it in the showdown. That's what they've requested. I've actually mentioned, I wrote a piece of the Raw where I said Collingwood and Port Adelaide should turn into a rivalry where the winner of their game gets to wear their jumper the next game. And then instead of playing for some stupid trophy, which means nothing to anyone, and is usually presented in the locker room somewhere, you play for the honour of the jumper. And I mean, Collingwood's had this long history of you play for the jumper.
Yeah, well, how'd that go?
Yeah, well, it didn't work well. But I actually think this would be a really fun rivalry where the winner gets the honour of wearing their jumper for the next round, next time they play one another. Maybe exclude finals. So
yeah, what do we wear? Because we only have the one jumper.
No, but then you just choose something. You just go make something up. I don't know if you remember, in about 82, we played East Perth in the Escort Cup. So the Escort Cup, for our younger viewers, was the pre-season competition. But back then it ran concurrent to the Home and Away competition. It was played on Tuesdays, I think. And we played East Perth, who was a West Australian team.
Really?
Yeah, and they had Collingwood stripes, and so there was a coin toss, and Collingwood lost it. So Collingwood had to wear.
Hey, go Woods!
So they and you can go check out my piece on the Raw, but they Collingwood had to wear an alternate strip, and they wore something that looked like pretty much like the Melbourne jumper, but it was black with just complete white. And I think that would be good. I think it'd be good for a merchandising thing. You just go change it up. You have a one-off jumper. I actually just think it would be fun if they did something like that.
Well, that's a great idea.
Oh, then Collingwood won't adopt it. What do you think of the players taking a knee before the game? There was some member of St Kilda tweeted, if our players do that, then I'm going to turn in my membership. And then St Kilda responded to him.
I think every club has tweeted that story this week.
Yeah, let us know who you are and we'll refund you. So clubs are offering refunds, apparently.
There is no right answer to this. Look, I don't personally care what they do, showing solidarity or unity or whatever it is that they're gunning for. There was a statement that was read out when they did this, which explained it all. I don't care.
I just wish they did these things. They didn't have to be motivated into doing these things. Surely just do these things because they're the right thing whenever the time is, not when it's triggered by...
Sportsmen have a habit of jumping on these bandwagons.
But the original... I forgot his name. The original American footballer who took a knee was pretty much run out of the league.
Wounded knee? Battle of Wounded Knee?
No, because he took a knee during the anthem and then he got...
Where did he take it?
I'm not going to go there. On the lighter side, which is the Corns that's on on the football show? I can't remember.
Kane Corns?
Yeah. The one who has all the opinions.
Yeah.
I actually like a lot of the shit he says. But, and this is a little bit old, but I want to bring it up anyway. He called Alex Jesaulenko's mark in the 1970 grand final overrated. It was considered mark of the century.
I thought it was over Jenkins.
No. It was considered mark of the century, or proclaimed as mark of the century.
Oh, because unlike Ablett, he actually held the mark.
Yeah, he held... So there's a few marks that, like... Ablett's Michael Roach's over the Hawthorn in about 80 or something, or 79. Nick Nats against Geelong just a few years ago, where they jump up. I mean, there's a few that Elliott was paid to, I don't know, against Carlton, where they jump up, they put their hands up for about 13 milliseconds, and then they fall, and the ball's bounced away, and it's being called a mark. It's like, you're just paying it for endeavour now. What do you think about Jez's mark? You think it's overrated?
No, the context of the game, I think it was important.
I don't know.
I always just loved Mike Williamson's voice.
Doing
the go, yo, Yote. I think that's just as iconic as the mark.
I think that's more iconic.
It's better than Leo
I actually
Barry,
reckon,
you star.
I reckon the angle on the mark's perfect also. I mean, I think it's overrated. But I mean, the problem is when you say something's overrated, people go, oh, you think it's shit. It's like, no, I think it's a great mark. Is it mark of the century? No, I don't think it's mark of the century. I'd be putting Andrew Walker's mark 9 years ago against Essendon, Darren Buick's, Moorcroft, I think, sorry, in 2001.
A midget taking a mark over a midget.
Yeah, but he got up pretty high.
He's a midget.
He's
this high off the ground.
Terrence
was better that year.
Even Howe's mark a couple of years ago against
How does
Melbourne.
it every week? You can't bring him up.
No,
as
but
an
the one against Melbourne, he actually he got up high and he elevated. I'm just sort of saying, I reckon there's marks that's been a lot better. I saw Eddie Maguire talking about on Footy Classified where he accredited all this added context to it. It's like, it turned the game against Collingwood, which it didn't in the grand final. Hudnam and McKenna running into each other turned the game. It sent Collingwood into the wilderness for 20 years, which it didn't. Within 7 years, Collingwood was competing in the losing grand finals. So,
there's a challenge.
Yeah.
Do something hard, Collingwood.
And you got to just look at it in isolation. You can't look at what happened after it.
We could have looked at it 2 months ago in isolation.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Yeah, that's it for Media Mephitic.
That was a good one. Yeah. So Jerker's mark of the century. We all agree.
Yeah. Jerker's.
Except for you.
Jerker's mark.
Jerker's mark over Jerker.
Jez's mark.
Jez's mark over Jerker.
Yeah. This one's just flowing. It's flowing like water. Be right back.
After these messages.
Welcome back to the match preview against the Saints.
Good.
Saints had a really good win against the might of the Bulldogs.
I think everyone will this year.
I think you're probably really right. Saints went on a hefty recruiting spree in the pre-season.
Who'd they get?
Stephen Hill from Fremantle.
Oh, you'd be handy.
And that other guy.
He should be good.
And Brett Radden from Win Their Own Ranks became coach.
Mm-hmm.
And what's his name? I've lost it. There's the only other guy I knew too. They've got about 4 players though.
Good on them.
Yeah, good on them. They're looking okay. We've only got like limited sampling. What do you think about the clash coming up this week?
They won't be easy beats, the Saints. I think they're probably going to be.
They were a band years ago.
Yeah, they were a good band too. They'll be on the improve. They lost round 1, I think, didn't they? And they won.
It was 88 days ago.
I know. So that's an indicator of form. It was 74 months ago. They won't be easy beats. I think we'll make probably 3 or 4 changes this week.
That's what are the changes? Stevenson, you imagine?
Stevenson will be in. I think Thomas will get dropped. Hoskin Elliott deserves to be dropped.
But for who?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know.
We go back to... There's no one really ready.
Who's in the... Well, Cox potentially could be ready, but I don't think we'll go in 3 tall heavy.
You can't go in with Cox and Cameron, I don't imagine.
I think Cameron didn't do anything wrong to be deserved to be dropped. I think Cox will probably say he's still got a bit of a boo-boo on his ankle or whatever it is, and they'll give him another week in the sidelines. Everyone else should be more or less fit. Was there a Blackmore's injury?
No, I had a look at it, and a few players, including Treloar, were listed as inactive, and I think that's because the list. They're not. That would be healthy at Collingwood.
In case them in carbonite.
No, but I think because of the way the hubs and the list reproportioning works, that you only have a certain amount of players and the others are on like the inactive roster. So we had guys like Dunn and all that on the inactive roster, but then we had, from memory, also Varco and Treloar. So you had a few experienced players. Of the reserves guys, I don't know who's ready to come up and who would demand a spot outside of Stevenson. And taking out, Treloar and Varco as possibilities. There's really, that side, it's not a full strength. I mean, you have a few major outs, but you don't have those fringe guys to come in. Unless you did something like, you brought Quaynor in.
Well, Quaynor would be a possibility.
For Noble or something like that.
I think there'll be a debutant this week. If Rantel was who's obviously our favourite player.
Jay.
If he was knocking on the door last week, I think they'll give him a chance this week. I mean, he certainly couldn't do any worse than someone like Hosky, who's just a shadow of him for myself at the moment. But then you could give a couple of them second chances. It's a rusty game across the board. There was that many that dropped off and disappeared. It's hard to really single anyone out like you did earlier. But I think there'll be at least 3 changes. I don't know who they're going to be, but there'll be 3.
I think, as I said earlier too, though, because of the way the season's now built with no VFL game, you're going to get a lot of players being rotated through just to try and keep everyone as fresh as possible.
Yep.
So I think you're just going to get mandatory rests at times. I don't know how Buckley's going to structure that. Well, I seriously think that Stevenson, unless there's something more going on in terms of his fitness, I don't think there's anything going off the coach. Yeah, unless there's like more going on with his fitness, or like he's still carrying glandular or anything like that, I mean, he definitely has to come in. But there's no one else really that I could see, taking out the Greenwoods and all that. Unless someone like Wills is fit. If someone like Wills is ready, I think they have to bring him in. Or Sire. I mean, I've said it before, I'd be bringing both of them in if I could. Because I think you need big bodies. And guys like Tyler Brown that were just getting out bustled by Richmond's mids. And that Sire Wills component is really missing from the Collingwood midfield. It has been missing since 2018.
Wills should be in. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him. Sire, who knows, but surely they're fit. I don't know whether you can play Sire and Wills in the same side. I know you're an advocate of it. I don't think you'd do it this week, but surely one comes in.
I wouldn't do it I wouldn't do it at once. I mean, I'd be trying to cultivate it and bring it in. But I think you would look at, because they're both big bodies, I think you'd look at going, let's rest one up forward and they can sort of play as the big bullock in forward and then just rotate them through the middle. I mean, that's the way I'd do it. Players are always getting bigger, so I think you need to go to bigger bodies to survive
So
the attrition.
There's also a slight chance that, because Grundy took a hit in the back. They were working on his back.
Yeah, back kidneys, yeah.
Would they rest him this week? Even though, resting is a loose term. And would you try Coxie and Darcy in that side?
Depending how bad that knock is, I think if it's...
Who's the ruckman at the Saints?
English.
Who?
Is it English? No, it's the Bulldogs on English. It's that other guy. Hickey?
Hickey?
No, he went to West Coast.
Hickey.
No, he went to West Coast. Not Bones, but Hickey. I don't know. No, I've got no idea.
So maybe ruckman's not all that important this week.
Well, it depends how bad Grundy is. I did hear that he's going to be out for 6 or 7 years.
I wouldn't mind sending an inside mid in though. Either way, whether Wills or Sire or somebody.
I think the inside mid is an important component of that side. I know you got Adams there, but I think they need another big body in there. And just watching against Richmond, and I think Richmond's got a great midfield either. Cochin and Martin obviously, but then after that, I think the dynamics of our midfield seriously need that big body to free up guys like Pendles and Saidi, and then when Trelaw's there, to be on the outside.
Yep, definitely.
So I think they need to work that in. I think Buckley recognised that, which is why he brought Wills in last year, and which is why he was a fan of Sire in 218. But whether those guys are ready, who knows?
Yeah, I know. I actually thought this week's selections was a little bit strange. It's almost like you're saying, well, 2 months ago, this was a really good side in terms of balance. It's going to be the same again. It just seemed a little bit clutching at straws with selection, but that's not unusual. I think, yes, it'll be a little bit different this week. But either way, I think we should win.
There's a few guys in that side who I think have been coasting. And, I'll name them, like Thomas, I don't think's been great.
Oh, he had a poor year last year.
Yeah, Hoskin Elliott's another one that I don't think was great.
Another average year. But Hosky got dropped a few times last year, didn't he?
No.
Didn't he?
No, he got thrown back a few times to cover up for injuries.
Which is a shame, because I'm a fan of Hoskies. I think he could be a
good
guy.
I'm a fan of anyone, but I'm just sort of saying, in terms of their form, the round one flattered them a bit because it was so dominant. And that's when these guys should be up and running. But Hoskin Elliott and Thomas have really struggled. I think Phillips has come down to the pack quite a bit. I think he came out with a blast, and then opposition started taking note of him a lot more and clamping down on him, and it's really shut down his effectiveness. So there's guys there that when they first show up, you think, oh shit, what do we got here? But then after a while, you look at them and think, is that all we're going to get? Do we need an upgrade? And these are sort of the players who I think need to either find form and push up to the next level, or you just have to say, you know what, we probably need better options than these guys. And, like I said, I defend Thomas because Josh Thomas kicked a few little mini bags in 2018 and all that. But at the moment, that side is relying on these guys to kick goals, and they're not doing that job. So, it's a statistics-driven selection if you're not performing. The other one I actually would think about doing is also playing Maynard in the middle as another big body. And the reason I'd also play Maynard too is that midfield is pretty slow. Maynard's quick, he's a bull, and he's got a really good kick.
Yeah, agreed.
And, you could probably try someone like Quain or Scharenberg and bring him into defence.
Yep.
And that would just sort of break up the midfield's dynamic and give you a new facet, which we just haven't had for a while.
Do we do those sorts of crazy things at Collingwood, though?
I remember Buckley was talking about Maynard as a sort of midfield ages ago, but I don't know if they just sort of said, oh, he's doing well back there, let's just leave him there. But yeah, I just think at the moment, the problems we saw last week against Richmond are the sort of things we were seeing last year anyway, in the prelim and that. So when that pressure is applied, we just seem to come to water a little bit. And these guys, we don't have enough match winners. That's my biggest problem. You don't have enough guys saying, I will fucking win this for you. You have a couple of guys like the Goey. Okay, we have one guy like the Goey. But that's what you want, It's like the 2018 Grand Final. Who do you think was going to win that for us?
Oh, it was the Goey there for a while.
Yeah, and he was the only one you really felt might be dangerous. And if someone else fluked in, Stevenson's got that element, but he's still pretty young. And then Cox was the other one who did a few really nice things. But they're not the names you're looking at where you're thinking, that's who I'd rely on as a matchman. That's the guy I'm going to expect to drag us over the line. Whereas you go back to 2010, you had like a lot of flash there where you just thought one of these guys could really just step up and just, do something amazing. And I just don't feel that anymore with this side.
Oh, hopefully it's an evolution thing. Yeah, hopefully.
Well, Thomas and Hoskin earlier has been around since 1962, so...
Well, maybe it's their turn. Maybe they'll do it this week.
Oh, hopefully
just to shut you up.
Well, somebody's got to.
That's true.
Any final... Or what's your tip?
I think we'll win by about 32 points. And the other thing I'd like them to do this week is stop going to the flanks all the time. Just maybe the odd journey down the middle. That's all.
What I'd like to see... I'm going to go for St Kilda by 17 points. I'm going to be an anarchist this year. What I'd like to see is just play smart. If bombing's not working,
we're done.
Just if bombing's not working, just pull it back a little bit and look for a guy wearing a similar jumper.
Like Port Adelaide one.
Yeah, that's probably why they don't want Port Adelaide wearing.
Because we'll kick it to them all the time.
Yeah,
you're a visionary.
It's kind of magic,
even with your sunglasses on.
Anyway, that's it from us. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, happy.
Ish. Happy.
Later. It's a flag.